Hey, my name is Ben. Thanks for stopping by. Welcome back to the mini split series. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the placement of your inside unit for your mini split. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, they actually do have different options for the inside unit. You can get obviously this style right here, which is the most common, where this just mounts on the wall like you typically would see with most mini splits. But they also offer a freestanding version that just sits on the floor, or a unit that will mount in the ceiling. I think that's called a cassette unit. And then they also have slim line or slim duct options where basically it's like a little air handler and you can still connect your mini split to like duct work if you are interested in that. So I'll put links to those different options in the description. But for today, we're going to be mounting this classic style unit, and I'm going to talk through a few different things with the placement of the unit, a few different things you want to keep in mind, and then we'll go ahead and get this particular unit mounted by the end of this video. Always check the specifications that came with the particular unit that you are installing, but generally speaking, what I'm going to explain here now is pretty much the majority of the things that you need to be concerned with as far as your placement of the unit. Now, the first thing that we're going to pay attention to is how far down we need this thing to be from the ceiling. And generally speaking, you're going to just need about 6 inches down. So right, this top edge of the board here is the closest that we'd want the top of our unit to be. And then from the outside wall, once this wall is finished here, we also want to keep that in about 5 or 6 inches. I'm going to say 6 inches there as well. Now, one interesting thing with this particular unit is that it wants us to have it up 90 inches off the floor, 90.5 inches about. And I'm not exactly sure why they are listing that as being so high, especially when you consider that the majority of ceilings, at least in the United States or in a lot of residential markets, your typical ceiling is going to be 8 feet. So 96 inches is right there. Now, we do have a higher ceiling in this situation, so we will be able to keep the bottom of our unit up 90 inches. So if you had 8-foot ceilings, you would just use that top clearance as your first one, where you keep it down 6 inches from the ceiling. And then even if it's a little bit less than 90 inches to the bottom of the unit, it's going to be just fine. The next thing to keep in mind is just kind of pay attention to the layout of the room that you're going to be placing your wall unit in. You have to think about the way the airflow is going to affect whatever space you happen to be placing it in. So the first thing to keep in mind is not to place it near any exterior doors. And that is because when you have an exterior door and you open the door, obviously it's going to affect the ambient temperature directly around the door the most. So by putting the unit further away like I'm going to do, you can see my entry door is over there as well as a big garage door, because in this case we are in a garage. Since it is in this back corner here, it should be less susceptible to sensing the temperature changing dramatically right next to the entry door. And that also is important because a lot of mini splits, the way they are designed, the sensors for the temperature of the room are built into the unit itself. Now, some mini splits will have a feature where the remote control also has a temperature sensor in it, and I believe that is the case with the model that I have here today. So I'll be able to place this wherever I want for the temperature to stay consistent where the remote is located. But if you had one that was relying solely on the sensors in the indoor unit, then it would be especially important that you keep that thing away from any doors or spots where there's going to be dramatic temperature changes happening. So looking at the layout of my particular garage, you can see this big overhead door is right behind me. So the wall right next to us, or right behind me right now, is the one that I'm going to put my unit on. And the reason for that is that if I were to put the unit on this far back wall right here, it would tend to push that conditioned air out and across and out that overhead door if it were open. So by placing it on this wall right here, it's going to basically circulate the air out and across and kind of in this direction, which is going to be better for reducing the amount of conditioned air that we lose when we open that overhead door. Hello.
Hi, a friend or family member who recently traveled with Marriott recommended you to receive a complimentary week vacation. For more info, press 0 now. To opt out, press 2 now. You are currently caller number 47. Waiting to speak with a representative.
Now that we've chosen the location of our indoor unit, we can go ahead and work on getting the bracket mounted on the wall. In this case, they included a nice template for us to use, which allows us to be able to see where we need to drill our holes depending on which direction we decide to run that tubing out of the unit, which we're going to talk about that right now. By the way, you should always make sure that the template matches the actual bracket. There's nothing worse than getting everything lined out, drilling holes and all that goodness, and then finding out that the template was the wrong template or it was not properly implemented, so it wasn't actually a true one-to-one scale template as it says right over here. Now, depending on your installation, you may not have a choice for how you're going to run the piping out the backside of your indoor unit. But if you do have a choice, I would highly recommend this configuration right here, where these pipes come straight out the back and they don't jog over and then out. Like right here, they're jogging over and out. I'll show you on the actual unit here in just a second. In my opinion, getting that line set straight out the back right away is your best option, because then all of your flare connections will be done outside of the building, and usually that's easier to make those connections and check them than it is if they are behind the unit. Now, we are actually going to be running it out the side like this configuration over here. It's going to come across and out, which is not my preferred way, but for my installation, it is the best way to go. Let's look at the actual unit and I'll talk to you a tiny bit more about it. Right now, the unit is upside down, so it will be flipped the other way around once it's hanging on the wall. But you can see how these pipes come pre-bent going out this direction. And that's the direction they're going to continue in my case. We're going to bring these lines out and we're going to knock out this little plastic opening on the side and continue the line set straight out the wall in that direction. But like I said a minute ago, my preference is to bend these lines straight back so that they come straight out the back of the unit. So we would end up drilling this 3.5-inch hole on this side of the unit through the wall and bend these lines straight out and then make all of our flare connections outside. One of the great benefits of doing that is that your drain line is going to run pretty much straight out the back of the unit. And you want to minimize the amount of drain line that is inside of the building. And the reason that's nice is that your drain line will be able to go down as quickly as possible once it gets outside of the unit. The fewer bends and turns that you have to make with the line set and the drain line, the better. All right, since our template does seem to be fairly accurate, we're gonna go ahead and use that. So we're gonna go 7 inches down from the ceiling and 7 inches over from the wall, just to give us a little bit of extra room. Before you choose the exact spot for your wall bracket, you're gonna have to watch where this hole is gonna go through the wall. You wanna make sure that that hole does not line up with a framing member like a stud up there. So just make sure that you choose a spot left or right that is going to allow you to drill a hole all the way through the exterior of the building if you're gonna go out the back without hitting a main framing member. Now you can see I made a couple little cuts in our template here. That way I'm able to make marks. So we know that the top of our bracket is going to be right there, and right there is the center point. And then over here is the outer edge. So go ahead and get this kind of close to where our markings are. Now, if you were mounting this onto drywall, which would be much more typical, you'd really want to make sure that you get several anchors into a stud behind the drywall. In this case, we're anchoring it to these 3/4-inch pine boards, so we're not going to have to worry about that. I am just using the included Phillips screws, but if you were wanting to anchor to a stud behind drywall, you'd have to get yourself some longer anchors. Just keep in mind that you want to make sure that your bracket is well anchored to the framing and not just to the drywall. Use our level here. Definitely want to get some anchors concentrated up here towards where the bracket top edge is, because all the weight is going to be pulling back on this particular part of the bracket. There we go. Now that we have our bracket in place, normally we'd be drilling a hole right over here for that line set to go straight out the back of this exterior wall. So that would be right about here. We could use the template to mark that and then drill that to the outside. But as I already mentioned, we're actually going to be running the line set out this exterior wall over on the side. So technically we'll see just a short section of line set before it exits the building, which in this case, since we're in a garage, doesn't bother me at all. Obviously it's a cleaner installation whenever you can take that line and go straight out the back. So with my template marked out here, we should be going out right at about this height right here, going out the side. But we're going to go ahead and hang the unit in place anyway, just to make sure that looks correct, because the rule goes measure 8 times, drill once. Believe me, it's much better than measuring once and drilling 8 times. In order to keep this thing from latching down into position, you want to hold the bottom edge out and away from the wall just a tiny bit. So now I'm able to check right over here to make sure that that mark looks like it's correct, and it looks like it's about dead center on where that side opening is here on this unit. So we should be good. I'm actually going to pull it back down again now, but it's nice to be able to just verify that you're drilling or cutting your hole in the correct spot. So we confirmed that mark was correct for where we're going to be running this line set out, but it would be a mistake to just use our level and mark it on the wall. We actually want to account for that drain line, and also to make it easier for us bending our line set down the wall outside, we want to give ourselves a decent amount of slope here. The official guideline, according to the instructions, is that you want the outside of your hole to be 1/4 inch lower than the inside of your hole going through the wall. So we'll go ahead and mark the center of our hole, and we're sloping downward at least 1/4 to 1/2 inch per foot, somewhere in that range. So I'm just going to mark where the center of our hole is going to be right here. Take our pilot bit, and then we'll maintain that same angle going out at around 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch per foot, somewhere in there. And we'll pop that through to the outside. Let's go take a look. There it is. Technically they want us to use a larger size bit than this, but this is the largest size that I have. This kit is actually pretty neat, these Spider brand hole saw bits. I will link to them in the description if you guys are interested. Not a sponsor or anything, I'm just a fan of how they come apart, which I'll show you in 1 second. Maintaining that angle, just like I mentioned before, at 1/4 or 1/2 inch per foot drop. Here's our handy dandy made in the USA Wilde brand, W-I-L-D-E brand pry bar. So this hole indicates the proper slope coming out, but we also want to bring the hole over towards this direction because that's where our outdoor unit is, and we're going to be swinging that line set. So any little bit of offset that you can do to help you make that corner is very worthwhile in my opinion. So we're going to set it off to the side about this far, and we already know that we have some downward slope taken into account with that pilot hole. We'll drill in a forward direction until we get this pilot or center guide bit through, and then we'll actually want to stop and switch directions and go through in reverse for this house wrap, because otherwise the bit will tear it up really bad. All right, let's go in reverse. Now I can show you why I like this bit so much. It's super easy to spin the bit off of the center portion. All you have to do is pull this back right here and spin it off, and then we can easily knock out that piece of wood, set it back down. You spin it on until it stops, release this, and then back it up and it locks back into place again. And to get the entire center portion off, all you have to do is press on that little spider button right there. So I'm going to slide it back on, press the spider again, locks into place just like so. So the ease of use is just fantastic on these particular bits. Link in the description. Something I've been waiting for well over 10 years is driving down the driveway right now. I feel nervous, actually. It's really strange. I have to act nonchalant. I'm walking over here with the screwdriver, pretending like I'm not seeing anything. They have to turn around technically before they can get out. Hey there.
Hey Ben, how you doing?
Doing good. You're bringing something I've been waiting for like 10 years.
Really, you too?
Yeah. This is this should be the 100,000 subscriber silver play button.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it takes a really long time to get them, unless you're really skillful. Unlike me, it took me a long time, but.
Well, I haven't got one.
Not yet.
I have zero skill.
Yeah. Well, you just gotta start. Just start putting some up. Oh, here you go. Maybe it's for your channel, I don't know.
It's not for mine.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
I know, I gotta
You should
open it.
open it. I know.
Yeah,
You
have
open
to-
it on video?
Probably should.
Yeah, probably should.
For your
Or
followers.
Yeah.
all your subscribers.
Yeah, but either way, I mean, we could get you an idea on what an evaporator and condenser would cost you.
What's evaporator do?
The evaporator, I should just call it the inside unit, the part that has a
Oh.
fan and the coil.
Yep.
Yeah, the fan and the coil.
Yeah. the
And
radiator.
we always call it the evaporator because
Okay.
that's what's happening. The refrigerant is evaporating inside of that coil,
Okay.
which is why that's what it's called. Like on an air conditioner, we always call it the A coil
Oh, sure.
above the furnace,
Yeah,
you know.
Yep.
But in a walk-in cooler or walk-in freezer, we always call it the evaporator. Come here, Freya. Come here. See you later.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's such a weird feeling to be holding something that you have known about and have been thinking about for many, many years. And for a long time, it was one of those things like, oh, there's no way I would ever reach enough subscribers to be able to get one of those. So it's pretty cool. So let's open it. Should we open it right now? I feel like I need to open this with my kids though, and my wife. I'll go get them and then we'll open it, okay? Now that we got our hole drilled and ready to go, we are ready to hang the unit on the wall, but there's a couple of additional details that we need to take care of before we do that, including removing this little cutout here and relocating the drain hose. This particular unit can drain out of either side, so we're going to be moving this drain hose to come out of the side that is closer to where it will be exiting the building. You can see right there is the connection point that we will move that to. So let's do that quick, and then we can hang this thing on the wall. In order to move this drain line to the opposite side, you just have to get a hold of it good and just gently pull it off. It's actually just a little barb fitting connection that connects this. And then on the other side, we just have to remove the plug. Let's grab a needle nose, I think might help us out a little bit. There's the plug, and then we'll put this back into the opposite side. Before we do that though, let's go ahead and attach our drain hose. So now this is ready to go. This might be kind of hard to show you guys, but the easiest way to reinstall these plugs is to get something that's about the right size to fit inside like this, and then that will allow you to push that plug in. You just want to make sure that you're using something that doesn't have too sharp of an end or it could damage the plug. This 1/4-inch diameter drill bit actually ended up working perfectly on the side that goes into the chuck. It's nice and rounded and not too sharp, and then we're able to carefully push that plug back in where it's supposed to be. Now in order to make the process a little bit easier, we are going to pull this cable through the front of the panel before we hang the unit. Now you wouldn't have to do this, but it's just going to make everything easier instead of having to do it all after the fact. Now I'll feed this wire up and through from the back. Now these wires just feed up right behind the line set here. It's kind of hard to see what's going on exactly, but they have this spot right here where theoretically you could attach a piece of conduit, or if you're using that watertight conduit to feed this through, you could attach it right there. But we're not going to do that, so I'm just going to completely ignore the fact that that thing exists. And we're just going to go around it and go straight back to our connection point up there in the front of the unit. For those of you who are wondering, this particular cable is a 4-conductor 16-gauge cable. And we can take this little bracket free here, and this is what's going to hold our communications cable in place. This is a little bracket that they have mounted in there for the electrical, presumably, and I think I'm just going to take this out. I'm not going to be running my communications cable in conduit, so it's not going to be necessary. This is just going to be strapped along with the line set, and it will be fine without being in watertight conduit. And the way that's designed in there, the way we were able to clamp it in place up above, it's perfectly adequate.
Fred, don't you want?
That's okay, she's fine. Just let her be. Okay, here we go. All right. Okay, let's read it. Wait, just leave it there for now.
Gotta read it.
All right, so this says. There it
There
is.
it is.
Presented to Benjamin Sahlstrom. No spelling errors, unlike most of my YouTube videos.
Wow, that's cool looking.
Woohoo! Look at those people there. This is my sister-in-law, Grace. Hi. It's right over there. Walk that way. I still haven't taken it out of the package all the way because I'm afraid.
Oh, that's so incredible.
It's so weird.
So cool.
It's so strange to see it in real life.
That is so cool.
16.
That kind of makes me heavier. But that's pretty cool. That's got a bit of weight to it.
Yeah.
Where's your plaque?
What plaque? It's on my teeth. Just kidding. Right there. I haven't taken it out of the plastic yet.
Do you have a knife somewhere?
Do you want to hold it?
Yes.
That'll be you in a year probably. You just gotta start posting videos.
Alright.
And then they'll send one of those to you eventually. What does it smell like?
Smells good.
Is it? I didn't smell it yet. Yep, smells new. We're going to carry this thing up and hang it on the wall now. I have a piece of foam ready to go, which is going to hold this thing out so that it doesn't latch into position, because we don't want it to latch quite yet. We want to be able to still work on the line set that we're going to be connecting in the next video. No matter where you pick these things up, they feel like they're going to just fall apart. Supposedly we can tilt it out as far as 30 degrees. Give it a little bit of a tug to make sure it doesn't feel like it's going to fall off the wall. So we are ready to connect our line set. If you guys are looking for a mini split air conditioning system, I will link to this exact system that I'm installing in the description of this video, as well as a few other good options for you guys. Now up next, we're going to be installing the refrigerant tubing, which is also known as a line set. So that's going to be in the next video actually. So make sure that you're subscribed and hit that bell to be notified of when that video comes out. Once the video is out, I'll be sure to put it on the end screen right here so you guys can click on that. In the meantime though, I'll put the whole playlist to this series of videos about this mini split installation right here in the top corner of the screen. As always, share your comments down underneath this video if you have any thoughts or suggestions or noticed anything that I did wrong. There's always lots of really good information down there, and also some bad information at times. All right, we'll see you over there, in just a few seconds.